and welcome to another episode of Northside Now. This is the podcast where your lovable hosts take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick, and with me as always are my two fabulous co-hosts, the Pumpkin Spice Glenn and the Autumn-inspired Kevin Bryant. What's up, guys?
At least I'm spicy.
I'm inspired. I don't know which I'd rather be.
I was really upset you didn't do the spooky voice.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, see, that's much better. So, well, welcome to October again. And
yes.
I am a happy guy because last podcast I was very sad that I couldn't find any candy corns that were not the old originals, but
Yes,
I
I think you went on for
them.
a couple minutes about that, actually.
Yes, I did. So now we're good. So fall can resume now, even though I'm pumpkin spiced. I have not seen the pumpkin spice candy corns.
Do they make pumpkin spice candy corn?
Yeah, they do actually.
I mean, how could they not?
That's true.
Again, it's
Pumpkin
probably
spice everything.
I saw a sign advertising pumpkin spice tire rotations. So,
My goodness.
that's pretty horrible.
That was one of those dad jokes, wasn't it?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You know, the good thing about October is the dad jokes went away.
They're done.
I mean, I can always bring them back.
Yes, you could try. You could try.
Well, we're
Unless
glad-
there's requests from
Yes.
listeners that
Yes.
want to bring them back.
Oh, definitely check out our Instagram. On the Instagram story, there's a poll up now.
There is.
Okay.
So, do you believe in ghosts? Yes or no? So, we want everybody to give us an answer so we can chat about that sometime
Yep.
more. We enjoy that, right?
We do.
All right. Well, you heard another voice, and yes, we have a guest today. Mr. Bill Ragon is with us today. Welcome to the podcast room, Bill.
Thank you. Good morning.
Glad to have you here. And Bill's that guy who does all those adventures we want to do. He just does them. You know, he doesn't sit around in his recliner going, well, I think I ought to, or I wish I could. He just does it.
Man of action.
Man of action.
Yep.
We all live vicariously through him.
We do. We do. So, but we are glad you're here because you have had a pretty miraculous and pretty cool trip, really, here pretty recently, as go down to Haiti with Samaritan's Purse.
Correct.
To do some medical work. Man, that's an incredible journey. Now, you've worked with the Samaritan's Purse before. So before we go to Haiti, you've worked with them in other parts of the world, right?
Yes, I was in Iraq 4 years ago with them for 3 weeks, three and a half weeks.
All right. How was Haiti, and how is this comparable? Is it different?
It was very different. The Plains of Nineveh experience was dealing with the aftermath of ISIS, dealing with immigrants fleeing ISIS, shooting wives and children, and explosions, and they were pushing ISIS out of Mosul, and so we were dealing with a lot of combat injuries. They'd fly drones over playgrounds and weddings and drop hand grenades on kids, and so it was more of a trauma
based,
more life and death than this was.
Yeah. And so before we were cranked up the power in here, we were talking about this is your second trip to Haiti. You went after the first earthquake,
Correct,
and now this second one. So how was that? Same, different? What did you notice? Anything?
Well, I went with Live Beyond guys before Live Beyond was Live Beyond.
Yeah.
And I was in church on Sunday, and Dean Curry says, David needs anesthesia. Can you go to Haiti? I said, sure. And I was on a private jet Monday morning heading to Haiti.
Yeah.
2 days, 48 hours after the earthquake.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so we dealt with a lot of similar injuries, a lot of trauma, broken arms, legs, fractures, a lot of burns, and what we call deglove injuries. Like, for instance, they would pull a kid out of the rumble, and they would pull the skin off a foot or leg or arm or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we did a lot of that. I was there 5 days or so, and then others came in and we left and came home. But with this trip, it was very similar, but somewhat dissimilar too.
Yeah.
This earthquake happened north of Lakai, about 40 or 50 miles.
Okay.
So it was mainly in a rural area, where the last one was in Port-au-Prince.
Yeah.
So that was that's why they only had, 12, 15,000 casualties versus hundreds last
yeah,
time.
Yeah, yeah.
But it also made it unique is there wasn't much help getting to those people.
Yeah.
Because Port-au-Prince had damage too. And it's a lot easier for the NGOs or non-government organizations to come in and pass out stuff with their video cameras to people in Port-au-Prince and not really go way up where it occurred.
Yeah.
But SP decided they were going to put a tier 1, they call it, trauma center, health clinic and facility in there to take care of the earthquake victims.
Yeah.
And so they had 4-wheel drive trucks. They'd drive 3-4 hours handing out tarps. They set up 4 water systems in communities that are amazing things that they flew in and pulled up there on a cart.
Oh, wow.
And so they were really one of the few NGOs really in the back country taking care of people where the needs were.
Yeah. I was blessed enough to go to Haiti after the first earthquake. And I don't know if you call it a blessing, but it was. And the Haitian people are really wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really trying to help each other and do everything for their neighbor. The churches there do a good job. But one of the interesting things that we found was after the first earthquake, there's so many people missing. They thought the rapture had happened. They thought the second coming had happened, literally. Did you run across anything like that where people were just totally dazed if you didn't really know?
Not really. It was interesting because we were there 10 days. We started setting up our camp of tents 10 days after the earthquake.
So they had a little communication happen before.
And it was in a rural area.
Yeah.
And so it just wasn't that impactful as the first earthquake was.
Yeah.
And so within 2 weeks, we had the operating room open and the hospital wards open and ready to go. And we thought we may have missed the action, so to speak, but it wasn't. We were within a day, we were full everywhere.
Yeah.
Doing 5 or 6 cases a day, every day. And a lot of fractures, a lot of open fractures, people walking around 2 or 3 weeks with open fractures, open burn wounds and stuff like that with kids and stuff. So we're busy doing debridements and skin grafts and things like that.
Yeah.
Listening to that sounds really, I can't think of another word than horrible. You're a medical professional, so you're trained in being able to deal with lots of pretty horrible things. And to me, that sounds like, wow, that's just, I can't even imagine it doing that much every single day for that long. So, I imagine that it's you're a little more accustomed to that than I am, but
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it was hot and it was a week before we got air conditioning in the operating room.
Oh yeah.
And we had one orthopedic surgeon lose about 4 pounds during a case one day.
Oh, wow.
So I said, okay, we're going to have to stop, drink a half bottle of water every hour.
Right.
Because, you're 70 years old. I don't need you.
Yeah, really. That's right.
So that was the hard part. But, when you're there doing what God calls you to do, you do. He empowers you to do it.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say, that you said before we went on air that there's so many NGOs in Haiti, people doing really important and good work. But for the listeners out there, I don't know how many folks know about Haiti and kind of its history, and probably so if you've been at Northside for a while, because we've, in my understanding, been connected with Live Beyond and talked about that a bit. But I was thinking before today that, I just don't hear about Haiti a lot. I mean, you hear about when there's a hurricane or an earthquake, but I wonder why we just don't hear about the conditions in Haiti as much. There's probably historical reasons there, and lots of corruption and lots of things. But you were saying with all these NGOs there, it's so difficult to get things done because of the political situation.
Yeah, it's like the powers that be want to control everything.
Yeah.
Even we were limited to, they said, okay, you can set up this hospital and clinics, but you can only do it for 6 weeks.
Wow.
At 6 weeks, you got to shut it down. So we're going to let you take care of our people, And after the first 10 days, we were seeing everything off the street. We had that local drug warlord get shot 3 times and dumped on our steps.
Oh, wow.
And so we were seeing motorcycle accidents and
Sure.
couple gunshots and, things we really weren't set up to do, but we were able to do.
Yeah.
But because there just was no health care there.
Mm-hmm.
I did a 5-month-old baby hernia. Well, if we didn't fix a hernia, it would never be fixed.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there were many things like that we did that weren't earthquake related, but they were healthcare related.
Mm-hmm.
And we just can't turn them down,
Well, there's so many issues there in Haiti, and we don't necessarily need to get into all the history and everything, but other than, God doing miracles, what do you think? You've been there a couple times now for an extended period of time. Do you get a sense of what the answer is for that? I mean, a lot of times and I've been to West Africa, and so we were talking just a little bit about how similar it is in some ways. A lot of corruption. The people in power seem basically just interested in keeping that power and suppressing everyone else, so that the balance of power is unequal. And when you have corruption, you have tribalism and various things like that.
Yeah.
Voodoo.
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to talk about for sure. You just won't be able to escape that unless it's maybe a groundswell of younger population growing and taking a better step when they get to that point. But the appeal and the draw and the temptation of that corruption is so strong, and it's so ingrained. How do you even with all the NGOs, they're not able to lift the general level of all boats up, and so it's very it feels hopeless when you think about it.
It's very hard to break that cycle. On the way back, I sat with a gentleman that was from Indiana, and he had been a missionary down there for 10 or 12 years and had a children's home.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 50 kids in it that had been dropped off. There's parents there, but they just couldn't take care of them anymore. And he was doing a great job. His wife was a teacher of teaching these kids and moving them up. But when they're 18, they're on their own,
mm-hmm.
and they have to leave. So he got it set up a college where they could at least stay,
mm-hmm.
And I asked him these similar questions. He said, well, it's just, one kid at a time.
Oh,
Right now I've had 150 kids that have gone through my program that are up to 30 years old now that are making a huge difference, but they're just one in thousands.
Wow.
Right.
But he said, you've got to start somewhere. And he said, there's a lot of us doing this right now, but we just don't. And it's just hard.
Yeah. Bill, talk to us a little bit about, because you work at a hospital every day, or most every day, and you do a lot of different surgeries, and we've just gone through, or we're still going through, a pandemic. And how does it help your career? How does it help your spirit? How does it help your work when you're able to take a break like you just did and go do what you do fairly normally every day in a completely different setting where you're helping people in a different way?
Well, last Sunday when Rev Kev talked about Joshua crossing, and it said, be still.
Uh-huh.
And it really came to me saying that mission trips help me redefine what's important and what really matters in my life.
Yeah.
I was the only anesthesia provider there, so nobody there could do what I did.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I had to be going every day. I couldn't take a day of rest, or
Right.
I couldn't get sick.
Yeah.
But it's just such a rewarding to do and care for God's children that are otherwise not being cared for.
Yeah.
And the appreciation is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
People appreciate it here too,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
but it's a whole different level. They're just basically, our wards, we had 4 wards with 10 beds, and they stayed full pretty much. I also had family members staying with them,
mm-hmm.
because guess what? They had 3 meals a day, cot on the floor to sleep on, and a cold shower.
Right.
Yeah. So what is in the Samaritan's Purse setup when y'all go there? I know you have operating rooms and
Well,
all that. What else is a part of that?
This is called a tier 1. It's the first time they've set this up, and it's designed to go in when there's a major disaster and be up and function within 48 hours.
Okay.
So we slept in tents that were 16 by 16.
Yeah.
3 or 4 men could sleep in it. We had a ER tent that was big and long that had probably 6 or 8 beds and desks in to see patients come in.
Uh-huh.
Then we had 4 wards that had 10 beds in each, 5 cots basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then a nurse's station. And then we had the operating room that was set up. It was all tents.
Yeah.
Just tents.
Yeah.
And we were on a basketball court.
Okay.
And part of it was our sterile supply. Another part was OR.
Yeah.
And then had administrative tent, a couple of supply tents and stuff. But we were up and going in 48 hours pretty much.
Yeah. What does Samaritan's Purse do? I mean, like I know when we've been on mission trips and we're doing medical stuff, so there's something for the little kids, so maybe there's a little vacation Bible school, or there's, I don't know, maybe there's a feeding zone, or they're checking the kids' teeth. I mean, there's all these other kinds of extracurricular things that are happening around. Does Samaritan's Purse, are there people who are part of y'all's team who are doing those kinds of social type things around you? It's just the medical.
We had 2 clergy guys that were Billy Graham trained, that were out of sight.
Yeah.
Really great guys. And we had a couple people there that were could do that kind of thing, mainly nurses. And then we had medical people, nurses, OR people, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we had basically had a hospital set up on the ground in 48 hours.
So y'all are eating MREs, or is there...
Well, at first they did, and then they contracted with a firm that provided meals for us.
Okay.
It was local food.
Yeah.
It was, a lot of beans and rice,
Yeah.
chicken leg, and
Yeah. Goat.
Right. Sometimes you don't even know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
You don't ask questions a lot
Protein.
of times there. Yeah. Peanut butter and jelly. Is,
Yeah, I carried a jar of peanut butter and some bars, and that kind of was my sustaining pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
How do medical personnel or someone who's listening, how do they get involved with Samaritan's Purse like what you have done? Is there a path? Is there a way? Or
Oh, yes, there is. I'm a member of DART, which is their direct assistant to trauma, basically, to natural disasters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great lengthy process, a lot of vetting, a lot of interviews of how I feel, my statement of faith. And if you don't agree with them, they're going to say, thank you. We'll find somebody else.
Yeah.
With any of those Franklin Graham institutes, you hear a lot of Jesus, and it's even in the Muslim world.
Sure.
Where I was, there was still there wasn't a lot of proselytizing or witnessing, but witnessing by our actions and our faith.
Yeah.
How we did. In Iraq, they'd say, "Why are you here? And what's it going to cost me?"
Yeah.
And we say, "Well, it's not going to cost you anything. We're here because Jesus called us to take care of you."
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are familiar with Samaritan's Purse through like Operation Christmas Child and things like that. But they do a lot more than just sending boxes for Christmas. Sure. So
I mean, they were in Waverly. They went to Carville, the Kroger shooting.
Yeah.
They had an emergency response team down there. We had a guy leave us and go to Kosovo and set up a refugee place for Afghanis.
Oh, wow.
And they actually, SP had planes rented to bring Christians out, but Biden stopped them. So, and they had an emergency medical team. They did 2 C-sections on the ones that did get out. And so SPs, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
They really are. Every time I'm involved, or I'm amazed at what they do.
Yeah.
It sounds like really similar to Red Cross is what they've been historically. I don't know the status of Red Cross internationally and whatnot, but it sounds like providing a lot of those services, right?
And more.
Yeah.
And more.
It sounds like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they gave out, 3 weeks I was there, they gave out 9,000 tarps.
Wow.
9,000 tarps. And the neat thing about them is when they go in the village, they align with the pastors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just don't go hand it to the people on the streets.
That's a good way to do it too.
They give it to the pastors. And so what happens is when people who have not into the church, involved with the church, it gives the pastors an opportunity to minister to them and care for them. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, and the pastors, when I've traveled internationally, the pastors know the community.
Oh, yeah.
And so they know who is really in need and who may be acting like they're in need.
Yeah.
And that is really important, I think.
The water teams carried a place up to a village. That's pretty neat. It was they had a big cistern that they caught water in, and they had a spring, but the spring didn't run year round. But they used the cistern to catch water the rest of the time of the year.
Yeah.
And the kids had stepped on the plastic pipe and broke it, so they went up there and fixed it and carried up a new water system and things. And talking to the pastors, and there was 2 pastors that had gotten together with several villages around the area that were affected by the earthquake and formed a co-op.
Oh, wow.
And everybody contributed to the co-op.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And then the pastors would give people who were in need.
Yeah.
And so that was several people or several things had said, okay, here's $1,000. You match it, we'll let you have $1,000.
Yeah.
And so it's really, the cool thing is that people are helping themselves and helping their neighbors.
Yeah.
And not looking for handouts as such.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know this either, but you went as an ambassador as well from Northside, and there was some financial giving through the outreach team that you were given to
Correct.
to bless others that needed to be blessing. Tell us a little bit about that journey with the outreach team, because you were our ambassador from Northside as a part of us, so we were there as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was interesting. I had I talked to several people. I said, okay, I've got some money. What do I need to do? And the SP guy says, well, send it to SP to fund the thing. And I said, well, surely somebody needs something somewhere. And so I was having lunch with one of the pastors, and he lives in Key West, and he is over like 300 churches in the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
Neat guy. Billy Graham's has stayed at his house many times. So
cool.
His history with the Graham family is just, you just sit there and just listen to, to what he had to say about it. But he had worked some miracles there, and we'll share that. But anyway, I said, okay. I said, I've got X amount of money.
Yeah.
And I want y'all to do something with it. He said, let me have it. We'll do it. I said, okay. And so when it was all over with, I emailed him last week. I said, what'd you do with the money? He goes, I'll tell you what we did with it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that came in, and the 2 clergy guys talked to everybody.
Yeah.
When they came in. And they would witness to them, talk about their faith, just minister to them.
Yeah.
And what your needs are. And many of them had no transportation home from the hospital. Many of them had no place to stay, no food. One person, that money spent for eyeglasses and eye doctor.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
But most of it went for food and lodging. They bought several tents.
Oh, cool.
For people to stay in. As a matter of fact, all of our tents and equipment were going to be donated to the local pastors to give to people.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
SP did not bring anything back. The medical equipment stayed to the local hospital that was a couple miles down. And, of course, all the equipment, everything went to the local pastors and churches.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
So the money did a lot of good.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it was kind of thing that SP couldn't do it through their program.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as you know, in that kind of environment, once you start, it never ends.
Exactly.
And they were very diligent to say, okay, nurses and people, don't give anybody any money that you're a patient, even though they have a need.
Right.
Sure.
Because once you start that, guess what? You're going to have people following you all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but the clergy were able to do this and do it effectively to people who really had the need. And they were wise enough and been in country enough to know, he doesn't need anything. He's got both hands out. And,
Right.
But you could really tell the need. And it was pretty neat that it did. And they really appreciated it because it was a void that they were able to fill that they couldn't otherwise.
That is awesome.
So it was very well spent.
Yeah, and it's overwhelming, the amount of need. And I think it's really wise to have that local person there or someone very knowledgeable of that area to be able to make those decisions with God's help to discern, okay, what needs to happen. But in my travels too, I've, regardless of sort of the political situation, when you get down to it, the people are, from my experience now, I haven't been to Haiti, but they're not lazy.
No.
They really want to work. They want to better themselves. They really care about their families, regardless of what state their family is in, right? If they're single mothers or, whatever it is. And I think I'm just constantly reminded about that outside of government, outside of all these things, we're all the same in that we really want the best life we can have. And for those of us that have more, it is a responsibility for us to figure out how we can be involved and how we can help.
Correct.
And sometimes we can't go to another country, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There's so many ways we can help. Definitely by donating funds to organizations like SP that can do that work on the ground. Live Beyond is something that I'm really impressed by. Wasn't aware of it because when we left this area, it really hadn't. I hadn't become aware of it because it started 2010 somewhere in there, I think.
Yeah.
But I just going online, livebeyond.org and look at it. And one of the things that impressed me is that they are, like so many NGOs are doing, but training the local people to run their own benefit organizations.
Yeah.
It just takes on a whole different meaning when that's happening, right? As opposed to foreigners coming in and doing this, whether it feels like a handout or whatever it is, they're contributing to their own success and they have investment in it.
Yeah, David Vanderpool is an incredible guy. Even in Africa, he'd go in and he would lease a building and buy sewing machines to rent back to the people. And then women were making purses. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they were making $5 a day versus $1 a day.
Right.
And it totally impacted their life and changed it big time. And he'd sell them in his office there in Nashville. And so he was very wise in trying, and the same thing he's done in Haiti, has brought in, broom makers and basket makers to teach these young people a trade, a gift to give and to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they can be self-sufficient,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so needed. And I think there's a lot of that going on, but it's just not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Right.
It just only goes so far. And but yeah, people are very gracious, very appreciative. They had a wonderful spirit, beautiful voices, were fun. One day we walked by there, and they had built them our carpenters that built them a cornhole game. And they were playing cornhole. And then all of a sudden they were just dying laughing. And I thought, what's going on? And they blindfolded them. So they're playing cornhole blindfolded. And the bags were going all everywhere, and they were just hee-hawing. I mean, it was so funny because God just throw it, and they'd say, no, this way. And they'd throw it, and he'd go, But, it's tough. But they made they had a great spirit and loved the Lord. And
Yeah, you talking about the singing. When we were there, we stayed at a school, and the kids in a church was there too. I mean, so everybody was kind of meeting at school. It was pretty much like a major building left, and they were all singing. And oh my goodness, can they sing? Mm-hmm. It was incredible. I mean, just the volume and everything. There's no speakers or nothing. Man, they have beautiful singers down there. It's for sure. And you talking about loving their country. One thing, we were there during their Flag Day as well. And if people here celebrated on Flag Day like they did, like those school children did and stuff, we would be a very different looking country in a lot of ways. I think we've forgotten that. Yeah. So, well, good. Well, Bill, thank you so much for going as our ambassador and working with Samaritan's Purse and all the other ways that you do, and just serving the Lord the way you do. We just give thanks for you and celebrate that. But and I know you're sitting there going, shut up. But no, seriously, we do. And but thanks for doing that and coming and letting us know about it, because that's the cool way. Now we're all a part of it, and we can continue to be a part of it. So
I go with many folks
Yeah.
lifted me up.
Yeah,
Because
Awesome.
you can't do it without that.
definitely.
Well, good deal. Well, we like to ask all of our guests a few questions. So here we go. You ready? This is just quick draw. Quick draw McGraw question time.
All right, here
Ooh,
we
that's
go.
what- Renamed it Quick Draw McGraw.
Okay.
Do you even remember that?
I'll make a note of that.
Do you remember Quick Draw McGraw, Patrick?
I don't know.
Whippersnapper.
Yeah.
All right. So, who is your favorite Bible character?
Well, lately it's become Joshua.
Joshua.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a good one.
I have read about him before, but Rev Kev put a whole different light on that for me.
Favorite Bible verse?
Probably John 3:16.
John 3:16. And your favorite Bible story? Just maybe you remember it as a kid, or it's one that has always stuck with you.
It's probably the crucifixion,
Okay,
actually.
that's the first one.
Yeah, because I think the best holidays of the year are Thanksgiving and Easter.
Yeah,
Because you celebrate what God's done.
yeah.
You know, when I was in Iraq, I saw the world without Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right after we got back, it was Easter, and we had children's service, and Don said, "What is today?" It's Easter. What does Easter mean? It means, Jesus arose from the dead. And he said, "Could you imagine this world without Jesus?"
Oh,
And I just broke down because I saw that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that world. You
Yeah.
know, I saw the hatred that we don't understand.
Sure. Sure.
We don't understand. And so that's always been pretty impactful.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
Great.
Well, thanks for joining us today. And you can find Bill at church, bump into him. If he's not here, he's probably at the hospital or on the lake fishing or something. But, any questions, you can definitely find him and ask him about Samaritan's Purse, things going on in Haiti. And his experience, I know he'd be glad to share them with you. So
too.
Thanks again for dropping by the podcast room with us.
Welcome to another installment of Northside activity. Bum, bum, bum. Today's topic of discussion, cryptids.
Okay, I must admit, I don't know a lot about cryptids.
You don't know the Bigfoot?
Well, you were explaining to me, you were giving me a little lesson about cryptids and how there are these potential possible creatures that are unexplained, or sometimes they're hoaxes, sometimes they're not. But I mean, what are cryptids? Is that accurate? Is that what am I explaining it correctly?
And why is it a cryptid? Is it like from the crypt?
Well,
Like the crypt keeper?
yes, the Crypt Keeper.
Yes.
What was that
Tales
show?
from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt.
There you go.
That's.
Well,
I mean, essentially,
on a Saturday night.
it's derived from the same word.
Okay. All right. I mean, I believe in Bigfoot. I have a T-shirt at home that says Bigfoot hide and seek champion since 1972 or something like that.
So
one of
tell
my
me
favorite
tell
shirts.
me what is Bigfoot though, for in your, you say you believe in.
Well, to me, Bigfoot looks like Chewbacca. To me, that's kind of what I think he looks like. But what's the difference between a Bigfoot and a Yeti? Just where they live?
Just where they live.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. Is they're all like the same creature? It just, depending on where they are. It's like the difference between
Yeah,
a
dark
brown
fur,
bear and
white
a
fur.
polar bear. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Because you have the skunk ape in Louisiana and like different variations of Bigfoot. It just kind of depends on where in the world it is. And
Now, what about Swamp Thing?
actually, Swamp Thing was
Go in the water too, though.
that was a comic book character. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
I don't think Swamp Thing.
Well, it was a TV show
It
too
was,
when I was a kid.
movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, or movie or TV show or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Or am I thinking about Man Thing?
I don't know.
Actually, I think one of those was Marvel and one of those was DC,
Yeah,
and they're
probably
just
so.
competing properties.
Yeah, he would help people. Swamp Thing would help people.
Yeah,
I remember him being on TV.
there are lots
at some
of
point.
movies and stuff.
So Swamp Thing's not real. Way to break my heart.
Let's see. This is what I was looking for. History and etymology for crypt.
Okay.
It's borrowed from the Latin crypta, which means covered passage, underground room. Noun derivative from the feminine cryptos, which means hidden or secret. The verbal adjective of, I don't even know how to say that, to hide or conceal. So it's basically creatures that are hidden from us.
Okay.
A cryptid is basically an animal or creature that might exist.
Yeah.
like a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster, or I don't know, any of these other urban legends you hear
The
about.
cactus cat.
Sure, I don't know
Actually,
much about the cactus cat.
I found a wiki that's dedicated to cryptids,
Oh,
and you can
The cactus cat.
look up anything. I mean, it's all listed by alphabetical order.
oh,
There
good.
you go.
So just
So
in
it has them all. Huh?
A's, you have a bunch of foreign sounding words, but alien big cats, Altamahaha.
So is like a gnome, like a garden gnome, would that be like a cryptid too?
It's not listed here. Like
don't know if-
goblins are.
Goblins are.
Yeah, but again, are goblins and gnomes and elves and gremlins and all the like the little folk, are those all the same thing as well? Just depending on what region of the world the legend was told in.
Well,
So
there's
it's
some
like-
of that for sure.
Yeah.
Because I know there's some Christmas stories that the reason you put your candy and stuff in the stockings is because if you left them in your shoes on the floor, I can't remember what they're called, but they would get their stuff. They were
Yeah.
mischievous little things.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way that the gremlins are portrayed, you know, because gremlins popped up in the 40s in the British Air Force, and
Yeah.
they would like appear in the planes and like tear the planes apart while they're flying through the skies and stuff.
There was that one famous gremlin on the Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yep.
I remember him.
But they're very similar in their mischievous nature too, like the gnomes or the elves or the hidden folk or kobolds in Germany, or goblins or all those little people. It's like we're going to be mischievous unless you give us something nice, you know.
But it's funny because now you're a gamer, and not in the sense of, I mean, yeah, you play video games, but you also play games like board games and stuff. And in a lot of those games, people want to be, there's certain powers or something like a dwarf has, or
Oh, yeah.
a gnome, or so.
We blame Tolkien for starting all that.
So yeah, basically based on
or
our stories that we've grown up
Yeah.
with. So Tolkien or C.S. Lewis, I mean, he did the same
Yeah.
style of writing.
one of my favorite stories about dwarves is Tolkien in The Lord of the Rings wrote it dwarves, VES, and sent it into his editor, and his editor sent it back and said the plural of dwarf is dwarfs, not dwarves. And Tolkien responded and said, I wrote the dictionary. Don't correct me.
Yeah, I mean, how would you? Yeah.
So what are some of the other cryptids, Kevin, that you've run across over
Well, give me a letter.
there? Jay.
J. Okay, J. A jackalope.
Ooh,
It's like a
now-
little bunny with
Yeah, and it's
antlers.
It's a jackrabbit
Yeah.
from West Texas with antlers, a small deer antlers on them. That was big things where I grew up.
Yeah.
Jackalopes were a big thing. You go into restaurants. And
I've
people
seen
would-
stuffed
That's
ones
right.
all the time.
Yeah, stuffed ones. You never seen a live one. Always saw a stuffed one.
Jenglot and Jersey Devil.
Oh, yeah, the Jersey Devil. That's an interesting story.
Here,
I don't know that I remember it well enough to
Here's a picture even. Yeah. It was native to New Jersey.
in the
having
Pine Barrens.
Hooves. Yep. A snake's tail, bat wings, and a head that looks something like a horse.
Wow.
It's quite an interesting
So would a
thing
would a
here.
minotaur be one of these things, or is that something different?
A Minotaur, I think, it was very similar to the Jersey Devil in that it was the offspring of, because if I remember correctly, and all this is off the top of my head, and so yeah, I'm probably going to get this wrong, and if I do, tell me about it in the comments. But the Jersey Devil, if I remember correctly, was a woman was either cursed or it was like the offspring of the devil kind of a thing, and she gave birth to this demon, which was the Jersey Devil, which is very similar to the Minotaur was the offspring of, it was like the queen who fell in love with this bull, and they had a baby that was the Minotaur, and then they got locked in the labyrinth as like its prison. I don't remember. It's been too long since I've
Done my Greek god study. So are they pretty regional or pretty local to areas? Or are they just
I mean, my sense is from just looking at this that there's, from all over the world.
because I mean, do things start like that? Because there was a Black Panther close to where I grew up. There was no
yeah.
hills or mountains or jungles, but there was a Black Panther. Farmers had seen him, he would steal a calf every once in a while or
Yeah.
a sheep or something like that. People had said they'd seen him walking through the woods and different stuff.
Oh yeah.
No one ever saw him on like a game camera or anything like that, but there was always this Black Panther. So is that how things start and kind of grow?
I don't know. I mean, there definitely are things like similar to that where, an animal was introduced into an area and
Sure,
let
yeah,
go
you could do that,
free.
yeah.
And, you've heard of monster goldfish and, all this stuff where,
When they don't have natural predators,
Right.
Or that alligator that got in the New York sewer and
Yeah.
grew to like 200 feet or something.
Don't
Yeah,
worry.
so-
I heard the Ninja Turtles took care of him.
Ninja Turtles got him. So.
But yeah, I think there is something to that, depending on where it could be the same thing, but when it's seen through that particular region's cultural lens
Yeah.
and then their stories that they tell about it sort of evolves the myth in a different direction when it all kind of could have started as the same thing. Because I know that, I don't know if this is on your list, but, over in Scotland, there's the Loch Ness Monster, which is very famous, Nessie. Well, in the United States, and I'm struggling to remember which lake it's in, but Champ. Champ is a very similar cryptid to the Loch Ness Monster, but it has its own sort of stories revolving around it. But Champ is very specific to this lake. Loch Ness Monster is very specific to Loch Ness. And so there are some region specific.
Now, we know lakes have like a bottom to them and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But what about the ocean? Could there be like I know they're discovering things in the bottom of the ocean all the time, but
according to the National Oceanic whatever Association, we have only explored 5% of the ocean. There's still 95% of the ocean that's unexplored, and people are discovering different species constantly.
So would it be possible, perhaps, that there would be somewhere in the ocean that someone could have caught or trapped a Loch Nessie and put it into a smaller lake, and then that's grew for a while? But
I mean, it's possible.
because if we don't know that much about what's down there, sometimes,
And depending on what Loch Ness is, it could have swam into the loch when it was still connected to the sea, and then the land has changed and it got cut off from. But then people have scanned Loch Ness and haven't been able to find it.
yeah.
So-
With all the new, I guarantee you, the new bass fishing electronics can, goodness, you can see your lure get bit by the fish. So they would be able to find that.
So that brings up another kind of what RevCav was talking about last time with Bigfoot and the speculation: is Bigfoot a real thing, or is it an interdimensional being?
I see that. I don't know. The interdimensional stuff just wears me out.
It's because it's an easy explanation for anything we can. Oh, it's just from another dimension.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think all of this is us humans with our finite brains trying to figure out something that, may be beyond our understanding or comprehension. I think my belief is that a lot of this stuff is just legend and myth. But I do believe there are potentials for, things that we can't understand for them to exist.
Because that's what we do as Christians, right? We try to share our faith journey with people, and that's one of the top questions, correct? Well, if you can't see Jesus and he's not here now, you don't have a picture that's in 1080p. How do you know that it existed?
Well,
or he
and
existed?
what about what Nicodemus said?
Exactly.
I'm a grown man. How can I be born again? So yeah, I definitely think that we have to acknowledge they're supernatural. We've talked about that already.
But you have to have faith to believe. You have to have faith in something. And I mean, is it a thing of you have to believe in an interdimensional situation, or?
I don't believe in the interdimensional. I think I'm in the same camp with RevKev that I think it's an undiscovered primate. But there's a lot of evidence. Like the Patterson Gimlin film is still probably the best video footage of a Bigfoot. And people have tried to debunk it and disprove it since the 60s, and they still can't do it.
Is that the one where he's walking across the woods?
And
kinda
the better
like the Beatles across that street.
Yeah. And the better our technology gets to analyze the film, the more it supports that it's an actual Bigfoot and not a person in a suit.
Yeah.
So, which it's pretty interesting. I encourage everybody to Google that and look it up.
Well, and I wonder too, like as people move places, in like Tennessee, there's used to be a lot of wilderness around here, and there's less and less. So, I mean, it's like any other wild creature. It has less in its habitat. So I wonder, are we seeing more sightings perhaps because there's less habitat?
Maybe. The majority of sightings of what we consider Bigfoot happen sort of up in the Pacific Northwest area where there's still a lot of wilderness.
Yeah. I don't know. I personally think it's fun to think that there's a Bigfoot guy.
I like to
roaming
think
around
that
out there.
there's things out there that we haven't yet discovered.
And they're wild and free.
Yeah. How boring would the world be if we knew everything?
Right.
I mean, it's fun to think of a Loch Ness monster, especially when you get like a big fish on your line. You're like, and it breaks on. Oh, it could have been a Loch Ness monster.
It could have been.
Nessie stole my lure, or something like
And
that.
as long as we have people with imaginations, we're going to have movies about it.
Exactly.
We're going to have stories and books about it. It's going to be.
What does it hurt? What does it hurt for us to fantasize about those things?
I think it could be harmful if then it becomes like an obsession.
It becomes our God.
Yeah. It distracts us from what's really important.
We make gods pretty quickly, though.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to believe in weird stuff to have, a God that's taking up your attention.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at my phone. What did you say?
Exactly. Exactly.
Bazinga. So,
Well, and tying this back to what we heard from Bill Ragan,
yeah.
I think for all of us that have been on mission opportunities, and it really is a blessing to be able to do that. If anyone out there listening has just been sort of debating about that for a while, I know we're coming off of COVID and lots of restrictions and things, but do you ever have, I highly recommend at least once in your life going to somewhere, even if it's, it can even happen here in the U.S.
Sure.
Right. So if there are various parts of this country that are very poor and need our assistance too. So you can find similar living conditions in a foreign land here in this country. So
easily.
Before we think, well, you have to go somewhere else to be able to find this. But when you come into contact with someone in poverty, and again, this can happen right here in the United States, and you do, you really spend some time trying to grasp and understand that point of view, you really start to understand how much some people have and how little some other people have.
Yeah.
And when you're in the little camp, the world looks different to you.
Yeah.
You can find the pleasure and joy in smaller things that other people may not be able to recognize or realize. And you appreciate other things much more than some other people who have a lot.
Yeah.
You also have the point of view of, if I ever get that, I'm going to hold on to it tight. And, I'm going to get whatever I can get while I can get it, because I might not get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different way to live than to know, okay, I'm going to have breakfast. I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to have dinner. I've experienced that myself, and with our family situation, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
When you don't have much, when you get it, you hold on to it tightly, and that causes a whole other series of behaviors and responses and things. But it's good to have a change in perspective. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
To be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see the world from a different point of view. I believe that Jesus could do that, just instantly. He knows everyone. He knows everybody's point of view. And that's how he can relate with everybody on a very spiritual, but a very personal level where people are. And if you ever talk to missionaries, or we've had some in our family, my grandparents were, they have that gift, being able to just relate to someone on a very human level and be able to understand where they're coming from in order to serve them and to help them and to be able to, accomplish their mission.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to go on on a mission trip, whether it's stateside or foreign, I think you'll see that. And I think, it's not a think. I know God works through that to change you. So many times I've said, well, wow, I was so much more blessed than, what the people that they blessed me on this trip more than I could even ever bless them.
Yeah.
And it really does change you.
I remember my first mission trip. I came back home just upset about two things. One, how much pure drinking water we put on our yards to make them green.
Mm-hmm.
And two, just knickknacks that we sit around, little figurines that we sit around.
I don't need that kind of personal attack.
We're looking at you, Patrick.
Let me tell you something.
They're action figures and they're cool.
Yeah. Not knickknacks.
Yeah, and there's a difference between that than just like the little porcelain whatever that sits on your mantle, because so yes, it does. And even if you're going somewhere like Haiti, who has a very strong religious belief by a lot of their people about voodoo or those kinds of things, don't be afraid to walk up and to meet those. The Lord will protect you around all things. What we talked about a little bit last week. So, He's going to be with you through any of these different things you walk into. But definitely highly recommend that. So always good to have a pair of Northside activity here. And Patrick has got us a good one for next time he's working on too. So we're looking forward to that. And
we didn't talk about the cryptids in the Bible.
Oh, good point.
Let's do
Good
that.
point.
Yeah. So what do y'all think this is? From Job 40, it says, "Look at Behemoth, which I made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox. What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like a cedar. The sinews of its thighs are close knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze. Its limbs like rods of iron. It ranks first among the works of God, yet its maker can approach it with his sword. The hills bring it their produce, and all the wild animals play nearby. Under the lotus plant it lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. The lotuses conceal it in their shadow. The poplars by the stream surround it. A raging river does not alarm it. It is secure, though the Jordan should surge against its mouth. Can anyone capture it by the eyes, or trap it and pierce its nose?"
Sounds like a lost woolly mammoth.
See,
Or the swamp thing.
I think it sounds like a dinosaur,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or Loch Ness monster. You don't know.
Could easily, yeah. Or a really, really large moose.
Copper for bones, though, or
Bronze,
not
yeah.
Bronze, sorry.
Well, the one that makes me, because a lot of people speculate that it's just talking about a hippopotamus, but the one that gets me is where it says its tail sways like a cedar,
Yeah,
which makes me
hippopotamus
think it's a lot
tails.
bigger.
Yeah.
It's not a hippopotamus. It's
Yeah.
a little.
But I don't know.
And
Woolly
how much
mammoth might be a really good choice. I don't know.
then you got Leviathan and
Leviathan.
I talk about Psalms, right? Where one of the Psalms is talking about how
Well, and Balaam had a donkey talk to him.
Isn't
that's true.
the Leviathan in Isaiah as well?
Yeah. I know one reference is in Psalm 74, talking about it was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert.
In Isaiah, it says, "In that day the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword, Leviathan, the gliding serpent, Leviathan, the coiling serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea." So,
When Rev Kev comes back, we'll need to.
Now, Leviathan, that does sound like Nessie
yeah.
a little bit.
Because it talks about it's like a sea serpent, or
yeah.
maybe it's what's the name of the snake from Norse mythology that wraps around the world?
Oh,
That is going to be the cause of Ragnarok. Why am I drawing a blank on this name?
I know. Yeah. And what about like Goliath? I mean, he was a big old giant.
Jormungandr. That's what it is.
Jormungandr.
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 I'm probably mispronouncing that really badly.
Who's Norman? Who?
It's got one of those O's
Wasn't
with
he on Cheers?
the two dots.
Jormungandr.
Jormungandr.
Yeah.
Jormungandr. Kind of like this.
Well, and then early on,
I mean, it is Norse. So
you've got those. And this is this is reaching back into my memory banks. The almost like giant godlike people early on that.
oh yeah, like Goliath was 9 feet tall.
Yeah, but it was before that, I guess. and where this was like back in the day before Noah, right? Where everything was.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you're
Different.
thinking about that Russell Crowe movie, the
Gladiator?
giant rock, yeah, Gladiator.
Hey, speaking of which, have you heard about all the renovations they're doing at the Coliseum?
No.
Yeah.
Are they finally turning it into a Spirit Halloween store?
It's only there temporary.
Okay.
No, but they're reconstructing the floor,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
and
And they're talking about using it.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
start fighting again?
well, I don't
Well,
know
I think
that,
more as
but-
like a athletic field.
We use
but-
foam swords this time.
because are the Olympics going there to Greece or
they just were
Oh.
there. I'm not sure. That they
I
would
want to
come
say
back
that I
that
thought
quick.
I heard they were wanting to have an Olympics in the Coliseum itself again.
Wow, that
That'd
would
be
be
cool.
something.
So they would actually have some kind of competition there.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
So
Wow, I would like to go there someday. That would be
yeah.
It's on my bucket list.
that would
for
be
sure.
nice. Nice.
Well, that was good stuff, and so definitely keep tuning in because Patrick has some good stuff coming for us in the future here in the next couple of weeks before.
Oh, yes. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
We wandered around a lot.
We
there
did.
for a minute.
Yeah,
But-
we usually do. It's not really out of character
Some
for us.
days that's just what
You
we
know.
do.
You won't see Bigfoot if you don't wander. You got to wander out into the woods. You
Not
won't
all
see.
those who wander are lost.
That is correct. They're just looking for Bigfoot. So, well, Patrick, what else do we have coming up?
Well,
Around
the big
Northside.
thing on the calendar for this month, Trunk or Treat Plus.
Yes.
Trunk or Treat Plus.
That's like everything is plus now. Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. So what's the plus?
The plus is a petting zoo. Ooh. An evil petting zoo. Whoa. No. There's going to be a petting zoo. There's going to be those inflatable things.
Yeah, some inflatable jumpies and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
jumpies. Like, yeah.
Now, are members of the youth group going to be the pets in the petting zoo?
No, but I so thought that was the greatest idea on the planet.
Everybody who hasn't listened to Donkey Talk, the youth podcast, should go check that out.
Yeah, we've got another episode coming out with the guys, but the one with the girls was really great. Talking about the youth dressing up like a petting zoo. That would have been
The best
hilarious.
comment was there would be less to clean up.
That is it.
You
I
would
mean,
think.
I would hope so.
You would
I
think.
would hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the big one. Put that on your calendar. That's October 31st on Halloween.
Actually, on Halloween.
from
yeah.
3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So,
And there's a lot of churches doing a lot of stuff that day.
yes.
A lot of fall fun fests, and I was
Yeah.
looking at events, and there's tons of stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend, and
Hopefully, good weather.
feels like
knock on
good
wood.
weather and some good stuff. Anything else coming down the pike? I know that in staff meeting recently we talked about Christmas events and things for the holiday season, and so I know that there will probably be a schedule really
Yeah.
soon.
As we
of
get
that
all
and
those
stuff.
details nailed down, we'll let
Yeah.
you know.
So if you're listening to this anytime between now and the
I mean,
holidays,
you've got a couple of youth retreats coming up, don't you?
We do have a couple of youth retreats coming up. We are going to give this a shot on the 16th and 17th and 30th and 31st. And when Bill was here before we started recording, he said that the numbers had really dropped really well. And so
On COVID, right?
On COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to being able to continue getting out and doing more.
Now, what are those? Just briefly, what do those retreats look like? Are they
They're going to start on Saturday about 1 o'clock.
okay?
And they're going to end after Sunday school on Sunday morning. So it's
Okay.
kind of a glorified overnight
So
thing.
it's sort of like a lock-in, right?
Sort of like a lock-in.
Okay,
It's just
yeah.
a little bit lock-in plus.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll change the
lock-in
name to
plus. There we go.
We are planning to go shoot zombies with paintballs
Ooh,
for both of them. Actually, the girls would have beat me up if I couldn't let them know
Yeah.
that. So we're
Yeah.
planning to do that as part of it in the evening. And so we're going to be, following a little curriculum that we're putting together and just kind of talking about helping them to, discover themselves a little
okay.
and how to support each other in that. So
Similar to the core beliefs
yeah,
kind of track that Rev Kev's going to be leading us into in the next few.
yeah,
Weeks.
maybe
Something like that,
Not
just-
quite that hardcore yet, but yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
Now, and confirmation is they're working on that same kind of stuff
Got
right
it.
now, that credo type thing.
Right.
So looking forward to that as well. but yeah, so those are coming up. You know, it's our first kind of overnight stay at the church thing we've done since COVID.
That's exciting.
That's kind of interesting.
Definitely.
So we're excited and a little bit. I'm just gonna be honest. We're a little bit nervous too. We have a great plan and it feels extremely safe. But until you get that done and under your belt, you know, then you're, you know, it's something you haven't done in a while.
Yep.
So, but we're looking forward to it. It'll be fun. So,
If people want to connect with that, they talk to you.
Yeah, give us a holler. And you know, it's been out on the Wave, not Donkey Talk, on the Wave, and on our socials and stuff. So yeah,
Good.
definitely give us a holler, and you can sign up through that stuff.
Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
I'm Kevin.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now.
Bye-bye.